What up, fam? It is your favorite cousin, your favorite uncle, your favorite nephew, your favorite father, your favorite brother, your favorite son, your best friend's best friend. It's me, Dr. Larry, and welcome to Living For You, the YouTube channel. This is a safe space, a positive place, a place where you can come and just be present and just be whole, and you get some of the best information. We go through things from entertainment to life coaching and everything in between. So this is a very positive place with a positive, upbeat spirit that's going to just move you from the future thinking, the past thinking, to living present and unwrapping the gift that is the present. So welcome to the channel. For those of you who've been here, you know who I am. I'm Dr. Larry Smith. Dr. Larry, Google Dr. Larry, you'll get me. I am Dr. Larry Smith, PhD. I am a certified, so you know who I am. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm, once again, Dr. Larry, certified life and spiritual coach, entrepreneur. I trade currencies and invest things. I have businesses. I'm a realtor. There's a lot of things that I do, mostly entrepreneurial stuff. That's just who I am. And my main business is life coach. So if you want to know more about me, you can actually go to www.liveforyoucoaching.com. That's www.liveforyoucoaching.com. Make sure if you come, you go ahead and like the videos. You can even share the videos. This is YouTube. Go ahead and leave comments if you want to leave comments. The more interaction that you guys give me, I love it because I interact back with you. And we can grow this network and grow this positive space, this sacred space, this place of love and peace and fun and everything else in between. Here, we can grow it. So go ahead and like the videos, share videos if you want, tell your friends, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed to the channel. Why be here if you're not going to subscribe? So go ahead and subscribe. You know you want to subscribe because you want this information, and it's good, it's useful, it's fun. I'm fun. I think I'm fun. I hope I'm fun. Whatever. Welcome to the channel. I wanted to get on here today and talk about the Aretha Franklin Genius movie, or is it Genius? Aretha Franklin Genius, episodes 1 and 2 on National Geographic. It is kind of a series. I think it's going to be 8 episodes. They play 2 a night. They played 2 last night, and it's going to go for 8 episodes on National Geographic. And it's kind of a episodic, I guess is the word, biography film about Aretha Franklin. Now, word has it is that the family didn't authorize this, but hey, her life is free to tell, even though it would be nice to get the family's approval so that you can get a little bit more of the nitty-gritty and the deep stuff, but whatever, who cares? It stars Cynthia Rios. You guys may recognize her because she did play Harriet Tubman. She also got her start kind of mainstream, I guess, would be in the Broadway version of The Color Purple. I think she played Miss Celie. So you know who Cynthia Rios is. She's a African-British actress. Now that was also problematic for some people. Some people feel like, why are you playing African-American characters when that should go to African-American actresses and actors for those roles? And then of course, I think I saw something earlier today, maybe even another day, in which I saw that she had some not so positive things to say about African-American people. I don't know. Either way, that's background drama. I'm talking about the film from a life coach's perspective. But you can look into all that yourself. You're free to feel however you feel. I watched episodes 1 and 2 of Aretha Franklin Genius on National Geographic, because I can't wait till the one with Jennifer Hudson come out. I know that's going to be a classic movie. I love Jennifer Hudson, and I think she can do the voice of Aretha Franklin, really well. Cynthia Rios, she can sing. Don't get me wrong. The girl can sing her face down. She has a very nice voice. It just ain't Aretha Franklin. It doesn't. As I watched the movie and they sung songs through it, I didn't get the same feeling that I get from when I hear an Aretha Franklin singing, because Aretha Franklin's voice moves you. And to me, Jennifer Hudson's voice is a moving voice as well. And it can closely match a little bit more of the kind of soul stirring that Aretha did. I mean, hell, you're talking about Aretha Franklin. We're talking about the very first award given to Best Vocal Performance Female at the Grammys. Back in the 1960s, went to Aretha Franklin. In fact, the first 8 vocal performance awards females went to Aretha Franklin. So you got to give us some soul stirring from the church, gospel down in your roots and at the bottom of your root chakra core singing to come out of your voice. And I just think Cynthia Rios gave that to us. But you know, it's still early in the series, and we'll see if she kind of progressed a little bit more, but I don't think so. But at the end of the day, that's another one of my own personal takes on it. We get to see kind of a really interesting take on Aretha Franklin. Now, there's certain things we already know. We know that Aretha gonna give us sass, but class, and a little bit of trash every so often. If you ever, one of my favorite things to do on YouTube is to just go down through some of the Aretha Franklin interviews. Aretha was sassy now, and she was that. She's, by the way, Aretha was an Aries, and her birthday is March 23rd, I want to say, 23rd, 24th. So she had that early Aries power personality. She had that big, strong personality, but she also had that attitude, that snap, that rude, that ready. And we got all of that in this movie. I think Cynthia Rios did a good job. Like I said, I'll wait to give my take on the comparison with the Jennifer Hudson movie. But Cynthia was trying to bring it. She was giving us a little bit of that attitude that we know Aretha had. And Aretha clearly, according to the movie, had that attitude since she was a very, very, very young woman. A very, very, very young girl. So we get all of this into introspective. We get to see Aretha at her home church in Detroit, under the church of her dad, Reverend C.L. Franklin. Now let me say this right now. I already know some of the backstory, because once I decided to change my religion, I got really, really heavy into the kind of the, I guess you would say, the black church. You know, whether it was Baptist, whether it was Pentecostal, whether it was Church of God in Christ, Holiness, all these different black denominations. I got deeply involved in trying to understand it. So I kind of immersed myself in the black church music, gospel music. My favorite gospel singers, Cece Winans, the Winans family. I love them. All from Detroit, right? Where Aretha's from Detroit, all of them from Detroit. And so when you start to really go into it deep and you start watching interviews and listening to the music and listening to the backstories, you start peeling away a lot of stories that you didn't even know. And a lot of people were connected. It's a very small world. Reverend C.L. Franklin was connected to so many people. I mean, the list goes on and on, from Martin Luther King during the Civil Rights Movement to the Clark sisters and their family, Maddie Moss Clark and them, and all of these other great people you can think of that were there during that time. Clara Ward and the Ward Singers, who he actually dated, I think, on and off for a pretty long time. And just so much, so many connecting into that rim and that world. And the church world is very small, believe it or not, and it was even smaller in Aretha's day. So she had people like Sam Cooke and other people come to her house, and all of this greatness of black music, artistry, and talent from the church, R&B world, secular world, beyond. So it was kind of great to see that and get that rich history there. But her dad was an interesting person. And I'm not going to put a judgment on him, because I know people watching it probably already placed those kind of judgments on his character. He was a minister, a powerful minister, a well-known, popular minister who had traveled around the country giving sermons. He used to record his sermons, and they called him the man with the golden voice. And because they loved his sermons, they were popular. And so he was pretty much famous before Aretha was even born for giving these sermons. He come from a traumatic upbringing. He grew up in a sharecropping family, and his dad kind of gave him an ultimatum that you either gonna sharecrop or you got to get the hell up out my house. And so he got the hell about his house, and he moved from different places. I think they went from Tennessee, Mississippi, where he was from. They went to New York, then eventually settled at a home church in Detroit, Michigan, which is where Aretha kind of came to be. She was born in Memphis, and she came to be in Detroit. Now, if you notice those cities I mentioned, Memphis, Detroit, New York, Jackson, Mississippi, and all these places, this is the interconnection of Black America and black, not just Black America, but Black elite, Black popular, famous as far as music goes, entertainers. This is also kind of the Black movement of the Great Migration. As African Americans were leaving the South, they were moving to places like New York, they were moving to places like Detroit and Chicago. So all of this web is interconnected, and it's beautiful to see that rich history come out in this movie. But Reverend CL was a little flawed. Okay, Reverend CL was a lot flawed. He had a taste for lust for the women, and he threw these parties where they had these different singers, some famous entertainers. They drunk, they party on Saturday, and they had fun, and they had sex, and they had a lot of other things going on at the party house, the Franklin house. and he even said in the movie, he said if he sinned today on Saturday, he just gonna make up for it by praising and worshiping and cleaning it out. Day of forgiveness on Sunday. I said, okay. I said, but see, you know what? You guys know me. You guys know that I'm very authentic when I say I don't put anybody on a pedestal to where they can't fail, because I allow people to just be human. You know, I even said this. You can go back, and I might even connect it to this video and watch my video on Kirk Franklin and the church and the cursing and how people might feel about that. But how I feel is this: humans are humans, and they're entitled to have human lives, no matter what status or position that they may have in life. And so but C.L. Franklin, Reverend Dr. C.L. Franklin, was a little tough on just loosely living. Now, the problematic thing that I saw, and I'm sure some of you saw it, is the toxic environment he had Aretha, and who was his golden child. Even her sister said, "You're his favorite." He took her around the country to perform at the church events for him. So when he was in Tennessee, when he was in New York, when he was in Mississippi, when he went through Georgia, when he went through all these places, he took her around, and she got a chance to witness several things. She got a chance, and I think the show started on that, to witness the violence and intimidation, racism throughout the South at that time, and other places that she witnessed, and she saw that firsthand, which deeply impressed on her to get involved in the movement. If you know anything about Aretha Franklin, she was deeply involved in the civil rights movement, presently and more so behind the scenes, and other movements as well. And she also got a chance to see the debauchery that went on with the church folks on Friday and Saturday before Sunday, where they were having sex and they were drinking, and so she was exposed to really an adult life at a very early age, 12 and 11 and 13. And it was kind of interesting, because I thought it was kind of weird. You know, she had these men around, and some of them would kind of flirt a little bit with her as adult men in an almost pedophilic way. It was very, very, very interesting. But I will say, growing up in black families, growing up in families who have parties or who go to parties or who engage tons of crowds, as I grew up in a household in which my parents always had people over. We always had events. We always went to events. It was a very dynamic. My parents liked to entertain. But being a child in that environment, sometimes, and this is even the case in my experience, many times, you are exposed to things that kids possibly should not be exposed to. And let's just say, WAP ain't the worst thing that a kid could be exposed to watching on black entertainment, okay? Or any other space. And Aretha was being exposed to things that her dad kind of wasn't fully engaged in her being there. And we get from the conversation that he had with his mom after Aretha had gotten pregnant. Now, mind you, Aretha got pregnant at 12 with her first child. She had her second child 2 years later. That's well documented, and we know that. His response wasn't a father who was upset with his daughter for getting pregnant. It was more so, man, I should have just watched her a little more. And mom was like, yes, you should have watched her a little more. And then they did the black thing that I consider black things. I know my culture. I know us. This is going to be the family baby. In fact, in many ways, we can keep this secret if you need us to keep this secret and just say that's your brother or your sister. You know, it turns out to be a boy, but we can say that's your little brother. And we can just keep it in the family, and ain't nobody got to know. Nothing. Secrets are there. And it was actually an interesting scene in the movie in which one of the family friends wanted to manage Aretha. And she said, I can hide everything. I can make you look the best you want to look out in the public eye. And Aretha was like, I'm a princess. We are a royal family. We are a good Christian family and everything. She basically said, write me a story and make me look good for everybody else, even though the real story might not be so polished. So I thought that was an interesting thing. So Aretha had a problematic upbringing, even though she was brought up in the church. Now you think about that, you hone in on that, you put that there. She was raised in a deeply religious household, but it was a problematic religious household. How common is that? I will be the first to tell you it is a very common experience. Sometimes church folk do more preaching against what others shouldn't do, but not enough regulation about what they should do. And that is a very common thing even to this day. You guys know that. If you don't know that, you know that now. Go do your research. Go learn. And that shouldn't stifle your faith. I'll say that here. That shouldn't stifle your faith, but that's just humans being humans. Allow humans to be humans. Humans shouldn't be placed so high on a pedestal that they can't fall off. It is what it is. So Aretha, we see Aretha, it kind of interweaves between her youth and the church upbringing and her life there, and kind of her in the 60s, you know, as a woman building her career. And we see that Aretha really had no direction. She was singing gospel, she was singing standards, she was doing all kinds of things. But she was a very troubled woman in many ways. And more than likely, the way I think what they were trying to say is it stemmed from that problematic childhood, where she got involved with this guy who met her when she was 12. Remember I said what I said earlier? The pedophiliac thing? He waited allegedly to be with her, from what we get. But he wanted to marry her and becoming her manager, her very first husband, who turned out to be, now mind you, Aretha's Aries spirit, so was her husband. I think he was an Aries. I did a little research. And they bumped heads all the time. And actually, the interesting thing I said, because there was a scene in there where he was always getting upset with Aretha. He was kicking people out and firing people. He was trying to dominate over her life. And there was a scene where he got mad at her, and then he smacked her. And she smacked him back. And the very first thing that came, apparently, and I from with my research, they had a very volatile relationship. I even read a quote from Mahalia Jackson that said that they always were fighting. They were always fighting. And I said, if Mahalia said it, it must be true. And so but I thought about it, and I was like, you know, this ain't Ike and Tina. Aretha had some sass. She wasn't going to just take a butt whooping. She was going to give it back, and it was just going to be a volatile situation. And that was what it was with her first husband, to where she went home and the family just rallied around her, and you know, it was just what it was. But we see a lot of the sass and how she kind of was being promoted as the lead sister, and her sisters had animosity about that, even though one of the sisters, to me, sung better in the movie than Cynthia Rios. So I guess they were trying to say that Aretha had a better singing sister, but she never got the shine that Aretha got. You learn so much about Aretha Franklin from that perspective. She was a chain smoker, apparently, which I've heard that in the past several times, that she did smoke, and you actually hear her voice change. I saw a video on YouTube where her voice changed throughout the years because of her habit of smoking. But it's a very interesting story. You know, Aretha was a powerful presence forever. Even as a little girl, with her voice and her presence, it was powerful. And as she got older and older, it just got bigger. And I think a lot of times, let's go back to that childhood scenario, that made her a powerful woman, because she had to live in an environment that was fast, as my family would say, from the deep south, and you know, that's too fast to me. She being too fast, they being fast, and fast people. Even though the people who were saying that in my family were fast people, but that's too fast. That's fast. She living fast. But living that life does toughen you. And I wonder if Aretha, seeing her father in the stuff that he was involved in, did it put a certain feel for the church, about the church folk, in her? Because there was a scene where she went to sing, and before she got to sing and she was watching her dad preach, she was seeing some of the same people who were at that party, including a couple of guys who kind of were a little flirty with her at that party. And I thought, you know, and Donna Washington was at the party, and Donna Washington had a tough life, and just all kinds of interesting scenarios in there. So I think that this Aretha show is going to be good. Aretha Franklin Genius on National Geographic. I think it's going to be good because we're getting not just a kind of a character study of Aretha and what built her to who she became and who she was, and why we saw the sass and the attitude and the pizzazz and the AKA the diva that we saw Aretha. Because I think Aretha became the standard of what a diva female entertainer was. Outside of the Italian operatic stuff, the diva, R&B, the singer, the pop star, she exemplified that, and we see that character forming in a situation to where her husband and mom were separated. Her mom eventually died when Aretha, I think, was like 5 or 6, and so she didn't have really a mom figure around. She kind of gravitated towards the females that her dad dated for any period of time, even though he wasn't always faithful to them, and she knew that. it was just a very interesting, and like I said, but you get a glimpse into the life of a Black America that a lot of us have lived. When I can put myself in Aretha Franklin's story on so many levels, in so many instances, and in so many occasions that I saw in that movie. So I think it's going in that show. So I think it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to watching it and coming back and just talking about it. I'm not going in any chronological order. I'm just kind of observing it from a life coach's perspective and some of the psychological and interactional and you know, and stuff that she's going through and experience around her. I found her father's character to be very flawed, but interesting, probably more interesting than Aretha in these first 2 episodes. Maybe that was meant to be. That was Courtney B. Vance who played him. And I found Aretha's growth and development. She kind of became a woman by herself, right? This is what I'm gathering. She became a woman by observing the women her daddy brought around, and she developed into who she was. And you kind of can understand that. She got pregnant early. So watching the women, she probably felt as though that's how a woman responds to a man, by being sexually active. Men like women who are promiscuous in many ways. And there have been rumors that Aretha was a little promiscuous, but I don't know. Allegedly. You know, allegedly. So we don't really know her story, but I look forward to seeing the Jennifer Hudson movie because I think that one was sanctioned more by the family. So hopefully we get more of the truth, if there is truth to it. But then again, when people tell their own story, they tend to color it up a little bit. So we don't know how it's going to go. But I think this one is giving us a clear indication that amidst all the chaos and stuff she grew up around, she somehow managed to still be a prodigy, a phenomenal artist, a phenomenal musician, someone with a gifted ear and a gifted voice and a talent to play the piano and all kinds of other things. And those are usually the best entertainers. The most flawed people sometimes make the most creative. The list goes on and on of people we can put in that category. And I think that this character study, interestingly, on National Geographic about Aretha Franklin is going to be an interesting one. And we're going to have more to talk about in upcoming recordings. So I look forward to that. I look forward to being here again. And like I always say, go ahead and like, comment on the videos, like the videos, share the videos, comment discussions about what you saw in the movie that you thought should be highlighted. And if I read it, I'll highlight it in the next one, because this is going to be an interesting roller coaster in this Aretha Franklin Genius show that's on, that we're watching. So as I always say, thank you guys for coming. I enjoy you guys. I enjoy this moments that we have together. I love you, and I will see you in the next video.